This is Lawrence Sanek at the Home Seller, Homebuyer podcast, brought to you today by Castle Dream Real Estate. This is episode number 1, the inaugural podcast for buyers. I will be briefly discussing some of the items that a buyer needs to take into account when they're buying a home. We will be going into more depth on these and other issues in our future podcasts. Well, let's get started. This will be a brief description of some of the topics we will cover in our future podcasts. The first one is the 11 worst homebuyer mistakes. You're gearing up to buy your first place, a move up, a move down, a second home, a vacation home, and shopping for a home can be exciting, exhausting, and a little bit scary. In the end, your aim is to end up with a home you love at a price you can afford. Sounds simple enough, right? Unfortunately, many people make mistakes that prevent them from achieving this simple dream. Arm yourself with these tips to get the most out of your purchase and avoid making the 11 most costly mistakes that could hold that for sale sign not getting a sold sign. Should I use a realtor for a new home purchase? I'm often asked that question, and the short answer is absolutely yes. In many states, home builders encourage realtors to show and sell their new homes. However, the realtor must be with you on your first visit to the site. Why do you need a real estate agent for a new home purchase? Because a site sales person is representing the builder, not you. This disclosure is in a sales contract which you will be required to sign, acknowledging that you have no representation. Most home builders have pledged themselves to a single price policy, which means that their published prices shall be the same whether sold by the builder or a realtor. You will not pay more when you use your own realtor to represent you. Additionally, the realtor will represent you, and their primary responsibility is to protect you and your interests. Should you buy a new home versus a resale home? When you're ready to start house hunting, you may want to consider new home construction so as to broaden your options. There will be many opinions as whether a new home or a resale home is better. We'll look at comparisons on that for one of our podcasts. Why would a realtor fire their buyer client? You wonder how the buyer would handle the situation if the roles were reversed. The buyer can fire the realtor, and the realtor can also get fired by the buyer because they don't submit properties that meet the predetermined criteria that a buyer has outlined. The criteria could change after the first few showings, but if the criteria continually changes or the client just cannot come to agreement, then it's time to hear those words, "You're fired." How much money will you have to come up with to buy a home? Well, that depends on a number of factors, including the cost of the house, the type of mortgage, what amount of earnest money you're going to put down, what type of down payments you have, and the closing costs. These are all going to be covered so that you know what to face when you're buying a home. Don't forget to protect yourself from credit repair scams. Yes, we all have credit problems, but when you hear, "We can erase your bad credit 100%. We can remove bankruptcies, judgments, liens, bad loans from your credit file forever. Create a new credit identity legally?" Do yourself a favor and save some money. Don't believe these statements. Credit repair companies typically charge $50 and up and often do little or nothing for you before vanishing. If you have real concerns, contact an attorney so that they can help you through that situation. We're going to be talking about some don'ts after you apply for a mortgage. I learned a long time ago that common sense is not common practice. This is especially the case during the emotional time that surrounds buying a home, when people tend to do some non-commonsensical things. We'll be going over some of those things, and they can delay or maybe even end the purchase of the home that you want. What kinds of questions should I ask before buying a house? Most first-time homebuyers jump into buying their first home because they've fallen head over heels in love with the house. So you're wise to think about asking questions before signing on the dotted line. Here are 3 main issues that we will cover that home buyers should address up front: offering price, condition of home, and location of home. With the advent of Zillow and other online information centers, some of the data you would like to know can be found in the web, but much of that information is incorrect. For example, Zillow can't accurately compute the value on homes in neighborhoods where the size and configuration is not conforming. It can give you a general idea. Your realtor can give you the best idea. How about 9 negotiation tips to get the best deal? You have to learn to set your priorities early. Knowing what's really important early on is critical to getting a great deal. Ultimately, the bar for wherever your negotiation is successful is determined by what the home and contract terms are worth to you. We'll also be talking about earnest money deposits. In the state of Florida, you as the buyer will include an earnest money deposit, and that deposit will go to preferably a title company. The amount of earnest money varies based on the type of property being purchased and the local market conditions. A typical deposit could be anywhere from 3 to 10% of the amount you offer in the purchase contract. The final amount is negotiable and will depend on such things as how long it will take you to close, the number and types of contingencies included in the contract, and your realtor will help you determine an appropriate amount of earnest money to include with your offer of purchase. That is another issue that will be covered in one of our future podcasts. Forget lowball offers. When the market begins an upturn, like it's been doing, it's easy to think that the biggest challenges for buyers are soon to be a thing of the past. Loan guidelines are looser, less likely that a property will decline in value after closing, and rates are still quite low. But experienced realtors know that in an ascending market, it can be tough to get appraisal comps to keep pace. And in the same vein, it can be even more challenging to get buyers' mindsets to keep up with the heat of the market. It's not at all bizarre for a buyer to have to lose 1, 2, or 10 properties while the market educates them that when supply and demand shift, the lowball offers of yesterday just won't cut it. We'll be going over some points that a buyer needs to know to cut down on the trauma and losing some deals, and what they will have to do to make that offer acceptable to the seller. An appraisal. We'll be going over some facts about residential real estate appraisals. In Bankrate's annual closing cost survey, the average appraisal costs around $400. Buyers sometimes pay for the appraisal when it takes place, and other times the fee is included in the closing cost paid on settlement day, the day the actual closing takes place. Appraisals are an important part of your home buying transaction. A real estate appraisal helps to establish a property's market value, the likely sales price it would bring if offered in an open and competitive real estate market. Your lender will require an appraisal when you ask to use a home or other real estate as security for the loan because it wants to make sure that the property will sell for at least the amount of money it is lending. Home inspections. Do you need a home inspection? Before you buy a home, one of the things you should do is to have the home checked out by a professional home inspector. Buying a home inspection is expensive enough as it is. Why would you want to choose to fork over about $400 if you're not required to? Well, we'll delve into what a home inspection can reveal and why you shouldn't forego this optional procedure. The home inspection contingency. Your first clue that a home inspection is important is that it can be used as a contingency in your purchase offer. This contingency provides that if significant defects are revealed by a home inspection, you can back out of the offer free of penalty within a certain time frame. The potential problems a home can have must be pretty serious if they could allow you to walk away from such a significant contract. We will go over mortgage settlement costs, origination fees, title insurance. We'll cover many of those costs, and we'll have some podcasts bringing in individuals that are well versed in mortgage settlement costs. You also want to know how you can save on your homeowners insurance. Having the right insurance coverage on your home is smart. Paying too much for it is not. We'll go over some tips to help reduce the cost of the homeowner's insurance. We will have 12 ways to help you lower the homeowner's insurance costs. It'll take some time, but could save you a good sum of money. Ask your friends, check the yellow pages, or contact your state insurance department, or the National Association of Insurance Commissioners has information to help you choose an insurer in your state, including those that had complaints. We're also going to cover 5 cost-saving tips for moving time. You don't have to pay the full freight. A cross-country move for a 3-bedroom home could cost $8,000 to $10,000 or more. So we're going to talk about what you need to do to cover your possessions and what type of quotes you should receive, because there are 2 different kinds and they make a major difference if there is a problem in which one you selected. We're going to talk about things to buy after buying a home, the home startup budget. Many times first-time buyers, after weeks of waiting for mortgage approval and then signing piles of papers, they walk into their home and then they look and they go, where are the drapes? We're going to cover some of the things that you will need if you are a first-time buyer or if you're a second time or a third time. This way we can cover some of those areas that you need to know about what you're going to need to maintain your home. We're going to talk about cash reserves and what you should have. At least the minimum amount to cover a mortgage payment, insurance costs, utility bills, groceries, fixed payments such as car payments, student loans, etc., and a minimum payment on credit cards. We'll be going over that in one of our podcasts. We will also cover the 10 things you need to do just before you sign the closing documents. After purchasing your home, you will think, now I'm done. Not so. There are items that you need to take care of before you walk through the front door of your new home, and we will cover those in one of the podcasts. It may be possible to reduce property taxes. You can't reduce property taxes for free, so don't fall for companies that charge for this service. When you arrive at home and see the wonderful letter from a nice company offering to save you thousands of dollars on your property tax, think about that twice. Since property values have cratered and they are coming back, they tell you that you could apply to have your property tax reduced, saving you big bucks. The company would go through the trouble of filling out the documents and acting as your advocate with the authorities in your area. All they want in exchange for this is $100, $150 to $200. These are things that you can do yourself, and these will also be covered in a future podcast. Thank you for listening to episode number 1 for buyers. You can find the show notes at www.homesellerhomebuyer.com, and you can leave your comments, questions, and suggestions there, or you can email us at info@homesellerhomebuyer.com. Also, don't forget to check out this episode's sponsor, Castle Dream Real Estate, at their website at castledreamrealestate.com if you're interested in buying or selling property in the greater Tampa area, or email them at info@castledreamrealestate.com and let them know you heard about them on the Home Seller Home Buyer podcast. Tell your family, friends, and coworkers about Home Seller Home Buyer podcast. Thank you for taking the time out of your busy day to listen to us, and catch us on the next episode. Thank you for listening, and stay informed.